What's up, you guys? It's Courtney and Brandon. We're analyzing Brandon's haircut. Definitely the side heads need some work. But all right, guys. So we want to jump in. We just got back from our walk. So yeah, are you guys all doing daily walks? At least it's warm. I'm gonna have really bad tan lines.
I'm gonna have a real bad farmer's tan.
Brandon's gonna have a farmer's tan. At least I wear tank tops.
No
Terry.
shirts on in the pool.
Yeah. So we just got back from our walk. We got this nice little loop. The girls are crushing their bicycles. So hopefully you guys are having an awesome day.
They almost crushed each other.
Yeah, we had one little Carson came across. This guy went over the handlebars. It happens, right? That's what happens with kids. Our children might be a touch competitive, like maybe a lot. Hi, Nate. All right, guys. So we want to kind of chat today with some stuff that's going on with us and that may be coming up for you, and what to do when old stories show back up, and how that sort of affects you and makes you feel. Hi, Rosie. And give you guys some tips to handle that.
So I think we initially were planning on talking about something else today, but
we're going to talk about purpose.
We were talking about purpose. Maybe this is a purpose. This is our moment. This is our purpose right now in this moment, right? And so I'll be honest, the last couple of days, we have some things that are on the back burner and we're working on as far as one of our businesses go. And, you know, in the back of my mind on a subconscious and on a conscious level, it's, you know, been affecting and kind of scratching at the surface for me. And I've been noticing, you know, the last couple of days of being a little bit more snappy, being a little bit more forceful, being a little bit non-empathetic to certain things, right? And I think we, you know, kind of had a head front today is kind of finding a real realization of, you know, no matter how much work we all put into these things, you guys, there's always something to be worked on. There's always something that we can improve on and heal. And like, there's always something that's going to show up for us, you know. And for me, it was one of the things of understanding that, you know, a lot of these things that are coming up for me now are 3.5 years, 4 years ago of events that happened for us revolving our business. And there was levels of uncertainty. There's level of, you know, just anger, frustration, just a lot of built up feelings that I had at that time that, you know, identified, worked around, took, you know, been working through the last 3 years of kind of evolving and becoming aware around those things. But we're in the midst of doing different things around that area of our business, and that underneath the surface started coming up again and becoming noticeable in other areas of my life, right? Like in coaching, there were certain things that normally wouldn't trigger me were triggering me. There would be certain things that I wasn't discussing things with her, right? I was more quiet. I was more somber. I was way more reactive with our kids and our dog, right? Like little things that probably normally wouldn't even bother me, but were bothering me because of this other area that has been kind of in the back of my mind as a lot of just old stories that I have wrapped around this scenario. And so I want to share that with you guys because I think, you know, in all these circumstances, we're all going to have different things that show up much differently than we probably anticipate them doing, right? Like for me, I had an awareness of like, okay, we're dealing with these things, right? Like, and it brought up old thoughts and old feelings and everything else, but it was also showing up in a lot of other areas that was affecting other people around me, right? And so I want to share this just on the side of no matter how much growth we go through, no matter how much we develop, is those things are always there. But I know for myself, where before 3 years ago, this would have taken over my life for not just a day or two. It would have taken over my life for a week. It would have overemphasized everything for the month. It would have lasted for months on end until it came to like a breaking point where everything got blown off. And then all of a sudden it was not just mending my own personal turmoil, but was mending the other relationships around me.
Well, and I think what's interesting now is like, obviously we've been doing this work for a few years and understanding each other, you know, and like, I know his vibes have been off. One of Brandon's protectors, I don't know if we talked about protectors yet. One of Brandon's protectors is sleep. It's napping, right? Like when this stuff doesn't go on, he doesn't nap very much, but when he's got this stuff going on, he naps, right? It's an avoidance protector. I do it. I avoid other ways. Like most of us, if we haven't talked about protectors, we're going to talk about protectors. But protectors that are just things that show up in your life that you learned when you were young on how to cope with things when you didn't know how to handle them. And then they keep showing up and you don't even know you're doing it, right? And so on my side, like I could feel that vibe with Brandon. It was like, okay, well, what's going on? And he didn't really kind of want to lean into it. And then we got into an argument this afternoon. Yes, we do still argue. Yes, we have children. We have a lot of stuff going on. And so it was frustrating. And like as the coach, right? Because we have multiple different relationships or layers of our relationship of husband and wife and co-business owners and coaches to each other, right? And so we just walked away, like kind of learned that was the thing. I was doing my thing. He came up and I was like, what's going on? Right. And at this point he was not defensive anymore. Right. Because I think sometimes we try to, and I was always the pusher, like, no, we're gonna talk about it right now, right now, right now. That doesn't work with Brandon. I know that now. So giving him some space, like that would used to be me, like, we're gonna figure it out right now. And that doesn't work. And so gave him some space, took my space. He came up, and I was like, what's going on? And so I asked him the question, what if this was easy? And when Brandon doesn't want to admit something, he gets this, like, I want to smile, but I'm not going to smile. And I was like, what if it was easy? And he was like, that. He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, what would it feel like if it was easy? And he's like, well, but. I'm like, no, not but. What would it feel like if it was easy? And so I was like, all right, I want you to take a deep breath. And Brandon cannot take deep breaths. It's kind of funny. We figured this out. So I'm going to tell you guys how this went. So I literally was like, go lay on the bed. We're going to take some deep breaths. So we did a minute of breathing like this. And then I made him do a breath hold, which just, well, it'll lower, like, it just gets you into your body a little bit more, drops down your resistance to all of the things you're feeling. And then he just laid there, and Stella was really cute. She came up and laid on him. And then I just asked him a bunch of questions, right? So I kind of walked him through a visualization and kind of like pulled back those layers in a state where he was still quite a bit in his head, but less in his head than he started. And like, the thing about this, you guys, is that that as you go through your healing and so you go through your journey and as you go through that personal development, you really start to learn more about yourself and you let the people around you know more about you. When this stuff comes up, you get to move through it a lot quicker, right? And we don't have to judge it, right? Like, we don't have to judge the, like, oh my gosh, I thought I dealt with this. It's still showing up, right? But what happens as you get farther in your own journey of self-development is that you notice things quicker, you have awareness faster, you can move through the judgment, you understand how to process them, right? Hi, Tula, happy birthday. Hi, Kyle, happy birthday. All the birthdays today. So the cool thing is that, like, they're never going to go away, right? And all of your old stories, they're going to still show up. Sometimes they're going to do that. They're going to sneak in. And the beautiful thing is that you get to observe them quicker. You get to see them for what they are. You get to love yourself through them. And you get to realize, like, okay, this is a part of me that still needs a little more healing. It still needs a little more love. There's still deeper to go. There's always deeper levels. Like, we still all do a ton of stuff that we don't even know we're doing, right? We all have protectors. We all have things that subconsciously are still playing in the background, right? And so the cool thing about this is getting to say, okay, like, this is still there for me, and that's okay. And these are the things now that I want to bring my attention to so that I don't have to continue to feel this way, right? And so, I mean, how did you feel afterwards?
I felt a lot more relieved. I felt a lot more, and I think this is one thing that we talk about with our clients all the time, right? Is as long as you're willing to fight for your stories, you're going to continue having them, right? And I think for me regarding that, and I think looking back at my patterns, because all these things are that we do, you guys, is just patterns, right? Like, you're not a shitty person, you just have shitty patterns that fall back into the things that we do, right? And it's it's our belief system and everything else, and that's when Courtney was asking me, like, well, what if this was easy? 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, this was not easy. Like, it was probably the hardest time I think I know, as far as us on a business standpoint, like, it was easily the hardest time we have ever had. And not to mention, like, probably the most, Stella, probably the most uncertainty we'd ever had, right? And so on a sensation, those things are locked within my nervous system, and my normal response to those is, well, no, I'm going to batten down the hatches and I'm going to be a man through this. I'm going to grit my teeth and I'm going to control everything I can. And that's what I was doing, because that was my pattern showing back up around these circumstances. Well, what if if I control these things, I get to have certainty in my life, because this is a very uncertain time for us, and all these things start to play in, right? And so when we were going through that, and she was asking me the questions, of what if this would, how would this feel? How does it just, yet again, where focus goes, energy flows, right? And so my focus was on a non-empowering, right? It was on very disempowering thoughts of I don't have control on this. I need to grasp a hold of everything. I need to convince, I need to sell, I need all these other things that go on through there that yet again, it was even like, okay, well, what is the action surrounding that? Well, the actions are exactly the same. The intentions behind them are different, right? And so like
the energy
behind that is completely different, right? And so I would say after going through that, I actually, and I do think one of the things I noticed for myself as another protector for myself is the reason why I have trouble breathing is I feel claustrophobic in my lungs when I feel like I don't have any control, right? Like I get shortness of breath, I'm not able to do certain things, and I hold fear, right? Because all these feelings, all these things that I was holding on all these stories are fear-based. Right? Like, well, what if this doesn't go through? What if we fail? What if things collapse? What if all these things? It's like, well, first off, all these are normal thoughts, right? Like I guarantee like all of you guys have had those thoughts somewhere in your head about something in your life, right? And so, as we're going through that and the stuff we talk about all the time with our clients, right? Like even though we teach and coach on this stuff, like we still have our own internal shit that we deal with as well, but it's still that sense of, if I can identify and I can come from a different understanding, then I can actually create a different feeling surrounding it.
Yeah, and I think, it was interesting because we've never actually done this together, but like I took the coach role and it, for us, we're always talking back and forth, and I didn't talk back. I just asked questions and let him say it out loud. Right? I just asked the question, let him say it out loud. Ask the question, let him say it out loud. And what we find a lot of times, you guys, when we're in fear stories, is we just need to get it out of our system, right? We need to either say it, we need to actually verbalize it, we need to like shine light on it, we need to write it down, you need to do something, right? So if you don't have somebody that can just listen to you, like say it out loud to yourself, that's fine, or go write it down. But this is something we use with our clients all the time of like, just get it out on paper, right? And like we got to that point and I was like, okay, well, what's the fear? That we're gonna lose everything. I'm like, okay, and then afterwards I'm like, do you really think that's true? And he's like, well, no, right? And so, but like when you can shine light on those fears, then you can love the fear, right? Like fear is there for a reason. It's trying to keep you safe. You get to love it. You don't have to push it away. You don't have to pretend like it's not happening. But when you shine light on it and then you choose differently, right? Like we say this all the time, like choose again, right? If that thought and that feeling's not serving you, choose again, right? But what I think we started to realize, and I think we should talk about surrender in a whole nother thing, but like in life, you guys, when you're trying to grow, it takes a ton of surrender. It takes a ton of like, because surrender is like the epitome of uncertainty of like, okay, I'm going to surrender to this is happening for me in perfect timing. My big new one, I love this is happening from me. And that's what I kept trying to get across to him is like the energy we show up right now in this scenario is what we're going to bring back to ourselves, right? So if we want this to go and we want things to happen a certain way, we have to be in the energy of that thing, right? And like yesterday we were kind of in this like, just this struggle where I'm like, positive. And I'm not like that all the time. Don't get me wrong. I am not like that all the time. But, and then it was like playing the like devil's advocate yesterday. And I'm like, this is not going to serve us. So catch yourself in those patterns. And I do this with myself all the time, right? And he does it to me. Like sometimes we get annoyed because we coach each other and it's like, oh my God, I don't want to be coached right now, right? And like, but sometimes we need that, right? So if you don't have that person, if you don't have that person that can ask you questions and get you to focus differently and get you to think a little bit differently, like you need to be a part of a community or a tribe or have a coach or have that person in your life because it will drastically change how your life plays out. Because like Brandon said, what happened today, had this been 3 years ago and we lived through this 3 years ago, it was months and it was exhausting. And he was angry at me all the time because I wasn't in the same like energy. And I was like, oh, you're going to drive me insane because you're so worried about stuff that we can't control. It's outside of us. Like, and it was a really stressful time for both of us. And so you've probably all been through this. So like find that person that can help pull you through this, that can get you to see a little bit differently, that can get you to shine light on that. And love the stories that continue to show up for you because all of that it's data, it's information, it's understanding like there's still healing that needs to happen around this. There's still work that needs to be done, right? And just understanding that like growth is not linear, right? It's not like set it and forget it. Like, oh, I dealt with that story, I'm good. Like that's not how personal growth works.
Well, we've heard that a lot. And that's one thing we hear all the time.
Why
Is
is this
like,
back?
well, I've already dealt with this. I've moved on, right? And it's like, well, yet again, different scenarios in your life are going to bring about different sensations. And when you have stories and all this stuff that's still tied into your system, no matter how much, yet again, there's obviously for me, there's still stories, there's still things that I need to go back and make okay or make a different understanding surrounding those things. Because you know what? There's a large part of me that looks back at that time and is very grateful because it was probably one of the best gifts I could have been given, because it truly showed me what we are capable of doing when we have to do things.
Well, and honestly, it was the catalyst of all of this personal growth for us. Really. I mean, it really was. Like, we were doing some, but like that whole, like, when your world falls apart and when the bottom drops out, that's when you figure out what you're made of. And that's what happened for us. And so if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't be here. Like, we literally would not be in the place we are right now. So looking back at that, yes, it was a great time, but it was also really hard. And so, like, honor your life, right? Like, we've all had times that are hard, but can you look back at those and go, what did I learn from those? And know that that stuff's probably still going to show up, and that's okay, right? And the biggest thing in all of this, you guys, is like, love the part of you that needs the healing, right? Love the part of love the pain, right? We say this all the time, like, love is where, or the pain is where the light gets in, right? And it is. And I got a message today from one of our clients. It was like, I'm starting to really understand that pain is where the light gets in, and it's working, and I'm healing. And that's like the best message ever, right? Because the pain is the portal, right? The pain is the portal to the truth. And if you can actually lean into that and give yourself some grace, right? Like, we don't all have to be perfect. We don't all have to be happy all the time. We don't all have to feel amazing. There's a ton of uncertainty in this world right now. So love the part of you that feels uncertain. Love the part of you that needs some certainty. Love the part of you that needs to reach out and talk to somebody. Love the part of you that doesn't know what's going to happen, right? All of that is okay, right? That's the thing, is you get to love all parts of it. And through that, that's where the growth shows up. That's where the healing is. And that's where you're really going to start to see that change. Anything else?
I think, honestly, a lot of it was just honor yourself, just like what Courtney said. Honor yourself, because I know, just looking at my pattern, and I'm very thankful that now I can recognize it a lot faster, because my pattern and my history is to stifle and bottle and push it away and be the strong man that I think I need to be in that moment in time, and control and bring about all these things of action and doing all these things. And it has in my past caused a lot of hurt and a lot of blame and a lot of just despair around a lot of the relationships that I had, that it took a long time to mend fences and repatch those relationships, because I wasn't willing to look at that, right? And it's understanding that actually me looking at those things is honoring myself, and is actually probably more strength in doing that than it is on the fact of ignoring it.
Heck yeah. It's way harder to look at the things that scare you than to avoid them. Like, we've all probably been there. So we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. Again, we're always here, you guys. If you need somebody to talk to, if you need some tools, if you need some resources, if you need us, we're here, right? We've showed up for the last 42 days saying that. It is true. We will jump on a phone call with you. We will walk you through some stuff. If you need support, just let us know. We've got you. Yeah, hope you guys are doing amazing, having a great Wednesday. If you haven't been outside in the sunshine, if you're in a state where it's sunshine, if you're in Colorado, it's beautiful. So I hope you guys are well, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, y'all.